Hello, everybody, and welcome in to After the Game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you live from Yogi's here on this Saturday as Indiana travel to number 4 Ohio State. But unfortunately, they do not get the job there as they lose to the Buckeyes. The final score 78-59, a game that was close early, and it wasn't really close early, back and forth. Todd, this was nothing but a game of runs, but it started with a gigantic run by the Buckeyes.
I mean, unfortunately, the outcome is probably exactly what most people expected, and that's just not where Indiana can be right now. They've got to do some things that separate themselves, and are not, quite frankly, people aren't expecting a whole lot out of Indiana, and that's what they're getting. The wins against Iowa are nice and all that. The win against Northwestern you had to have, but this one here today was an opportunity to steal a game. Jim, it comes down to this. They're going to blame it on a whole bunch of different things, I'm sure, and I know you can do that, but you're not going to beat very many teams with 59 points a game. And we've said this since the very beginning of the year. If the offense doesn't get better and figure out a way to score points in today's 2021 NCAA basketball, you can't win. You can't win if you can't score points. And this team, that's their biggest struggle. And until they get that figured out, we're going to continue to have these games where we start to maybe see some signs of things changing, and then we're going to see games like this.
Yeah, Trace Jackson-Davis, 23 points today. He was 10 of 14, gets 9 rebounds. But it wasn't that it was quiet, but it wasn't a dominant 23 points. He didn't have anyone helping him, I guess, to go along with that greatly, and maybe that's why. But it just didn't seem – his 23 points wasn't as loud today as they seem to have been in other times.
Does that make sense? It does. It makes a lot of sense. And if it weren't for him, it would have been a 30-point game, obviously. But think about it this way, Jim. I mean, he's looked at as pretty much a consensus All-American. Like everyone that Jay Billis, Seth Davis, all the people who talk about him, all talk about him being an All-American and all that. As an Indiana person who follows every game and watches the game pretty intently like I do, if right now today you could just flip-flop and give Trace Jackson-Davis to Ohio State and take E.J. Liddell, would you do it? And E.J. Liddell's not considered an All-American candidate or anything like that, but I'd take E.J. Liddell all day long over a Trace Jackson-Davis. And there's one reason why. Because he can step out and make an outside jump shot, and that makes everybody on the floor better. Trace Jackson-Davis this sounds like I'm ripping Trace. I'm not. The offense has got to be changed so that it's not just directed around Trace Jackson-Davis, because Trace Jackson-Davis does not make everybody else on the floor better. E.J. Liddell does. He makes it easier for everyone else on the court because he can extend that defensive guy out. He can step out there very good at making an outside jump shot. It's just one of those interesting facts where you look at it and you're like, everyone talks about Trace Jackson-Davis being such a great NBA candidate and an All-American in college, and I'd take E.J. Liddell over him 18 times in a row before you could convince me of something different. And it's difficult to revolve your team around a guy who can't step out and make a jump shot.
Well, that's the game that we're wanting Trace Jackson to have, that he needs to go on to the next level, but he to have that shot. They're
the same age. They're the same age. They're both sophomores. One guy worked on it over the summer, and one guy, I'm not going to say he didn't, but he's not as successful at it. And these teams, Jim, you and I do this a lot, okay? And we talk about this a lot. So, I'm not just randomly pulling this out of nowhere, but Ohio State and Indiana have a ton of parallels. You got a coach that came in exactly the same time. 2 months difference between Coach Holtman going to Ohio State and Archie Miller coming to Indiana. You got E.J. Liddell as a sophomore. You got Trace Jackson-Davis as a sophomore. You got some more experienced guards. There's a lot of parallels. If you right now went down the list and you said, okay, well, let's talk talent-wise. Let's talk 1 through 5, or really 1 through 7 or 8 on these teams. And which guy's better on which end? And I don't know that you would dramatically say, well, obviously Ohio State is much more talented than Indiana. I don't think you would say that. I think they just understand their system better, and they understand what it is they're trying to accomplish, and they're better at running it.
I was thinking today, you either have to think that Indiana has some very talented, very not talented players and very with low IQs, or there's something different. because these guys were all highly sought after, highly recruited, had successful high school careers, yet it's flatlined. And I mean, I haven't hidden anything. I've said it over and over. There's no player development, and that all goes back to one place. And the things that you just said, they're evident. We see other places that are going up. Indiana's not trending up. They're going to have to deal with that after the season, which, of course, it's hard to not talk about it now because it's impacting the season right now.
Look, we don't have these shows on here to just sit here and talk about how great everybody is. I mean, if they are great, that's what I want to talk about. But, I mean, when the offense puts up 59 points, I can't sit here and sugarcoat it and act like, everything is roses and going to be good. And there's something to look forward to in the next game. I mean, Rebecca makes a comment there about the offense looks chaotic. I don't know if chaotic's the word I would use. But I do like the fact she says to forget the objectives. I'm not sure they know what the objectives are. Like, I think there's a lot of times I don't know what their objective is in some of the stuff they're doing. And I watch them as closely as anyone that's not on the coaching staff, I think. And so the offense, if it's something that's going to put up 59 points, Jim, we talked about this early in the season. If they can't consistently make shots and make it easier on Trace Jackson-Davis and figure out a way to average 70-plus points a game, they're not going to be successful in the Big Ten. And I know after the week they had last week, winning 2 games, you would have thought maybe they were on the upward trend, but this is I know you played a good team. I don't want to hear how tough the schedule is. Everybody plays a tough schedule. Purdue plays a tough schedule. They're winning. They got a winning record.
And the thing about the offense, this is, the thing the discussion that's been ongoing. It's not going to change. The lineups are not going to change. Again, today was a day that you desperately. I had people texting me, lots of people texting me, commenting, why did he take Hunter out? Why does he? It's mind-boggling. He refuses to deviate from what he does, but what he does is not working. So I don't understand how a coach at this level, who is paid what he's paid to do, cannot make the changes necessary to do it. It's on him and no one else. And until he does that, nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to change for the outcome of these games for Indiana.
I would love to rebut what you're saying. I would love to prove you wrong, but I can't. I mean, you're right. It's we talk about this all the time as fans. We watch the recruiting and we watch who's coming in and who's this and who we get excited about and when a guy's going to commit, even if he does do it on Super Bowl Sunday and all those kinds of things. Like we look forward to watching these guys play, but we don't get to choose who they recruit. We don't get to choose who gets to come here as fans. And so we kind of have to live with what the coaching staff believes in and what they think they can coach. Look, every coach and player has a relationship that they build together. And a coach's job really is to get the most out of those players and make them play in a way that's going to end up with a lot of victories. Otherwise, they're going to get fired. And I'm not sure, like the guys that we're watching out on the floor for Indiana, you're right. They were recruited because of something they were really good at some point. And unfortunately, I think we put a lot of guys together on the floor that don't work out to be a cohesive offensive group, okay? And I would say they're above average defensively, but barely. I mean, I wouldn't even put them in the upper echelon of defensive teams nationally, and I don't think anyone would. I'm not saying that to be nitpicky. I don't really think anyone would that looks at Indiana and tries to evaluate them as a team overall. But at some point in time, and you and I know this, I'm not saying this. I want Archie Miller to be the coach at Indiana. I just want him to be successful. And they're not successful. No. From a fan base's perspective, this team, I would say this to Archie Miller's face, this team is miserable to watch. There's nothing exciting or fun to watch about this basketball team. And I don't think that's just my opinion. I talk to a lot of Indiana people and fans, and we all have similar frustrations. I mean, you can't win if you can't score. If we get beat, this is probably a terrible way to say this, but if we lose a bunch of games, 85-80, at least it was better to watch. Watching the frustration of guys who absolutely cannot score, I don't feel bad for being such a dick about the way I say this stuff after the game because they're that painful to watch.
One of the things that I don't mean to jump to the end, I'll come back, but with 7 minutes to go, Indiana was clearly out of this game. They were down by 20, 22, whatever. And I'm like, why? Why on God's green earth are you not putting your freshmen in? Get them these valuable minutes. You're out of this game. You got no chance in hell here. Get these guys some minutes that they desperately need, and they were nowhere to be seen till late in the game.
The starting lineup was on the floor with like 5 minutes to go in the game. And I the same thing was going through my head. I'm sitting there at that point going, okay, so what happens right now if Rob Finney makes 3 3-pointers in a row? Then all of a sudden his stat line's not going to look that bad. But if you look at his stat line at halftime, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, all the way across the board until you get to minutes. Minutes he had 9 and a whole bunch of zeros right along next to it. And you're like, how does a guy play half of the game, every game, play half of the first half, and basically half of the game, and have as little efficiency and output as he does? And I need to stop using his name because it sounds like I'm picking on him. I need to just say that point guard position in general. But I mean, okay, so let's just say everyone in general tonight. Would everyone not have rather seen Al and Armand and Jerome Hunter and the 2 big guys on the floor? Why does it have to be either Christian Lander or Rob Finney? One of those 2 guys they feel like has to be on the floor at all times for what? Like, I don't understand it. Other teams play without point guards all the time. Otherwise, C.J. Walker would never leave the floor for Ohio State. He's the only real point guard they have, other than the true freshman who barely plays. So other coaches make adjustments, and I don't see Indiana making adjustments. And the only person that has the authority to make those adjustments is the head coach.
And it's common in football for an offensive coordinator to script the first 10, 15 plays of a game for whatever reason, and they'll go with that script no matter what. That's not something that is a custom in basketball. Archie is either the most dedicated coach I've ever seen in my life to a script and will not deviate it under no circumstance, or he simply does not have the ability to make the changes that are needed in the game. It's one of the two, but either way, it is not working, and it will not work. It's not going to change.
Tell me if this isn't the way because in what you're saying, this is kind of how I view what you're saying. I think they developed a script of how they thought this team would play before the season started. It's not like game by game. I think they thought, okay, this is how this team's going to play, and it's like a round peg, square hole, round peg deal. And it's not working. It's not fitting. But we've not adjusted it. We're still on that same script that we had to start the season out. And to say it's not working is a laughable understatement. Like, it's just it's so frustrating. Like, I will straight up come out and say I hate watching this team play. If we didn't do this show, Jim, there is zero chance I would have watched the second half of this game today. That's how. And I would battle a lot of people in saying I've been an Indiana fan. You know, I'm 50 years old, and I've been an Indiana fan for 49 years and 6 months. I mean, the first 6 months, I don't know if my parents had me in IU shit. But ever since that point, I have worn IU gear my entire life. I consider myself a lifelong Indiana fan, and I hate watching us play.
And it's no fun, and it's not the kind of basketball that Indiana fans want to see.
It's awful.
I mean, even if they're winning, this would be miserable to watch. But
look,
they're not even winning.
I said it. Look, I'm not like jumping off the bandwagon. In the Iowa game when Indiana won, I said it wasn't fun to watch. I didn't enjoy that game. Indiana didn't play that great. Iowa played bad. Northwestern didn't enjoy watching that game at all. We played terrible, and we won. So it's not wins or losses that make me feel that much better about it. It's just how we play. We've had a lot of games where I thought we played pretty good and we lost. And I could deal with that a whole lot better than I can deal with, you know, winning games like Northwestern. And I feel like I'm trying to force myself to be excited about a win.
We've talked about this before. Easy to scout, and you pointed out it doesn't matter if you're easy to scout as long as you execute. This team does not execute. Again, that goes back to the coach. At this time of year, 4 seasons in, you're not executing the same thing you've run for 4 years. That's I'm sorry. You cannot blame a different group of 12 players year in, year out for not executing the same exact system. It's either not being taught well or it's not. I don't know what. I don't even know what the answer is, but there's no offensive game plan for Indiana, it seems. It seems like they just seem to bounce it off of what happened on the previous play, and that's it.
Well, and here's the way, here's why I started with a bad attitude, is because in the very first possession offensively, but in probably 5 of the first 15 possessions for Indiana, we ran it all the way down to the end of the shot clock. And as soon as I saw that was the case, and look, if I were Archie Miller at that point in the press conference afterwards, I would say, well, we knew we couldn't run up and down the floor with Ohio State, so we had to try to slow the game down or do something different. Then play a 1-3-1 zone or something. I don't know. But you can't slow it down on the offensive end because all you're doing is taking your points off the board because this team is a miserable scoring team inside of 10 seconds on the shot clock. They don't have a go-to guy. They don't have a guy to create his own shot. Armand's the closest thing they've got, and he's working in progress. He's doing great. I love his improvement. Everybody documents it and talks about it, and I think next year he'll be even better, and as a senior, he'll probably be great. But right now, you can't classify anyone on this Indiana team as a guy that can go get you a bucket when you need it. And when you get down to the end of the shot clock, that's what you put yourself into.
I watched the game, and I'm looking at the stat sheet. And usually we can always find
and then throwing up.
Yeah, there's usually always a few things you can pick out for some positives. And I watch this, I'm thinking back, I'm like, what the hell was positive about that game? I mean, I don't care that Trace Jackson had 23 points. It wasn't like he didn't dominate anybody. He didn't do anything hard to get him, and then no one else did anything to step up. As a matter of fact, Jerome Hunter had 1 second-half point. 9 points in the first half. He ended up with 1 in the second half. I am searching for something positive here. And I'm struggling. I really am. If he would have played the freshman for the last 6 minutes, I would have found that to be a positive.
You'd have something to talk about. I totally
but
agree
he didn't do that. And I'm like, gosh, I got nothing. And I'm sorry. I really want to find something positive, but I don't have it.
When they shoot under 60% from the free throw line, right after, okay, so you know what? They've been a bad free throw shooting team throughout the year. But the last 2 games, they've actually shot better or shown some improvement. So then you think to yourself, okay, well, you know what? There's some progress that we can talk about. And then they shoot under 60% from the free throw line for the game today. And you're like, that's a fundamental thing. That you know what? You know what I want to hear about? You know what I want one of these guys to post on his Instagram or Twitter or whatever tonight? I want to see them all standing in there at midnight tonight shooting free throws. I mean, show me some commitment to getting better from the free throw line. I don't want to see you show me if they post the shot from the last ball game again tonight, I'm going to vomit, throw up again. Like, I don't want you to post that shit. When you lose, what do you post then? What do you do today? Like after the last game, everybody posted, just another W or whatever. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, post yourself shooting free throws tonight, all night long. Have a party. Get a pizza party. Have Garl order you some pizzas. Get back there. You want to be the alpha dog? Walk in there and go, hey, girl, we need 12 pizzas in here tonight because we're all staying here all night long until our fingers bleed because we're going to shoot free throws all night long. But you want to know what they'll be doing? They'll be at Buffalo's in like 2 hours from now. As soon as they get back, they'll be at Buffalo's eating, waiting for everybody to tell them how great they are.
Well, they ought to come to Yogi's instead.
I'm so tired of these. But I know. If I was Yogi's, I wouldn't let them in. They got too much business in here right now.
Yeah, that's true. We're packed. And the thing is, what do we have to look forward to? That's the scary part because of the things that we're talking about. It's rinse, wash, repeat. And that's the hard part for everybody is, and there has to be some blame on the players, of course, like exactly what you just said. No one should have to make you do that. No one had to make you guys do that. That was just a natural thing. The gym rat was in you guys. No one should ever have to make you guys do that, especially when you're losing. It should drive you as a competitor alone. And but unfortunately, it does. But what in the hell does Indiana fans have to look forward to? Indiana still has a shot to make this tournament. As crazy as that sounds, I know that's odd after a game like today, but their schedule is not in their favor. And I noticed something else. Nebraska has a game that they have to make up. I forget who it's with, but their schedule has the same game with the same team on back-to-back days, and I'm worried that that's going to happen to Indiana with the scheduled game at Michigan that has to be made up, that they're going to end up playing 2 games at Michigan, and they'll give them 2 games at Michigan State at home. I don't know that beating a Michigan State is going to get you in the tournament. Minnesota maybe, but if you don't beat any of these other teams, they're not getting in.
They made the statement today that right now Indiana is a tournament team, and that was probably a really factual statement at the time that statement was made by Jay Billis earlier today during the game. But now that the game's over and you just lost by 20, now I think the statement is made. This is not a tournament team. Like they're not. That's how much there is fluctuation in who's in and who's out right now and all that. I think Indiana was in this morning, and I think they're out right now. Unless, here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Indiana has the opportunity almost every game to get a victory that will get them right back into the tournament. But the single stat of not winning more than 2 games in a row all year long, I don't know when the last time that's ever been a stat at Indiana is. It may be the first time in the history of the program.
Well, probably 6-25 under Tom Crean, but that was a unique.
I'll bet you early in the season they won more than 2 games in a row. Because in the Big Ten they were like 1-16 or whatever.
Yeah, and that was a unique situation.
And I understand we didn't have the preseason, so you didn't have that opportunity to beat that stat. But when you look at right now, you've got Minnesota next, Michigan State, and at Rutgers. I mean, if you had to say it right now, do you think they'll beat Minnesota?
I don't. I mean, I wouldn't pick them to beat them. I'm not saying they can't. They can. They have the talent, but
do you think
I'm not going to pick
State?
No. I mean, they should.
Maybe. Should. Yeah, I guess should, but
that's the only wins that I see for them available.
I'm with you. That's my point. Like, that's kind of what I'm saying is how as Jay Billis, who is he's probably one of my favorite people to listen to do a game. I really respect him and think he does a good job. I think he analyzes it pretty well. But when he said at the end of the game, I like this Indiana team. That's because he doesn't have to watch them every single game. Because there's no way you could like this Indiana team if you had to watch them every single game, because they're frustrating. If he doesn't have to root for them, that's the difference. And when you look at it, for you to go out on the statement and say Indiana is a tournament team, and then you look at that remaining schedule and you say to yourself, okay, if I get fired from ESPN, if Jay Billis has to say, okay, my career at ESPN depends on whether I get this decision right or not, and Indiana has these 5 games remaining, are they going to make the tournament? Whether I'm right or wrong determines whether I get to keep my job. Guarantee you he would say they're not making the tournament. Like, no chance he says they're making the tournament. But he also knows there's 80 billion Twitter followers that are Indiana fans that follow him that want to hear him say that Indiana is going to make the tournament. I want them to make the tournament. I want nothing more. This thing's being held in Indianapolis, Jim. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? To not have Indiana in it would be an absolute shame. And you look at those last 5 games, Jim, they've got to win. They've got to win 2 of them and then win 2 games in the Big Ten tournament, which I think is doable. But it's going to need to be the next 2 games. I mean, it's that simple.
And they have not showed us that. I mean, the only fight we've seen is against Northwestern, a team that has lost 10 in a row, and it took 2 overtimes.
Was that fight? So. Was that fight?
Well,
or were you
I mean, I'm just calling it. What do you want to?
Know.
That's what I'm saying. That's it. That's that. If that's what you want to call that, it was against a team that's lost 10 straight. So if that's the fight, but James mentioned, no, I'm definitely not hiding behind it. I put all of this or most of this on Archie Miller. I think that he's been here 4 years. We've seen the same thing over and over. He does not make changes, does not make adjustments. I've already said he's either unable to make adjustments, or he just doesn't know how. I don't know what it is, but this all falls on him. He's paid $3.4 million to do a job that he has absolutely not come close to doing, and his peers around him, like Chris Holtmann, like Chris Mack, Mick Cronin, are all having success, and
Well, look,
there is a big difference.
You can't get a more parallel than Chris Holtmann. And
how to God do we wish Indiana could have hired him, and Archie wanted the Ohio State job. That would have been perfect for everybody.
No, they could have hired him. I mean, they could have hired him. Let's not say that. I mean, they didn't even interview him. Like he would have taken that job in 2 seconds, and we all know that. And James' comment, like, I'm not skirting the issue at all. I'm saying look at the parallel. We're not asking Archie Miller to do something that isn't done all the time. And currently isn't being. It's not like the state of basketball in the country doesn't allow this kind of thing to happen over a 4-year period anymore. It takes longer than that. That's not true. Chris Holtmann is winning at Ohio State. I don't. Where have the recruiting classes ranked over the last couple of years? Since the two of them have been there, who's had a higher ranked recruiting class? I honestly do not have any idea the answer to that, but I would bet you Indiana's overall is higher than what Ohio State's is. So he's not Chris Holtmann's not winning at Ohio State with better talent. That is better. I'll say better ranked talent, but I'll say it over and over again. And this is not an indictment against Trace Jackson Davis, because I love Trace Jackson Davis as a kid, as a player. I want him to be on my team. I want to root for that kind of kid. But right now, if you were like at the playground and you took all 14 coaches in the Big Ten and they were all getting ready to start and they were going to start picking players, obviously Garza and all those guys are going to go first. E.J. Liddell's going to get picked before Trace Jackson Davis by all 14 coaches. All 14, including Archie Miller. And he can't say that. Obviously, let's not kid each other. He could never come out and agree to that with having the team. If he did agree to it, they'd get fired that same day, and he should, because they got to be a family. They got to be all together. The difference is we don't have to be a part of that family. We're part of the whole IU Hoosier Nation. I'm a part of the nation, okay? And the nation's pissed because I'm watching other programs get better and succeed, and I'm watching my program completely fail.
Miserably fail, to the point where if we did not do this show, which I'm pretty sure if I don't shut up, people are going to wish we didn't do it anymore. No, I tune in because they trust you to tell the truth, and that's the thing that they don't get a lot of places else.
Let me give you a stat, and there's nothing to keep that anyone's going to say that we can prove this stat, but I'll bet you this is really close to true. What percentage of former Indiana players, whether they played for Bob Knight, Tom Crean, Mike Davis, Kelvin Sampson, or Branch McCracken, what percentage of former Indiana players do you think watch Indiana basketball games on a regular basis? I'll bet it's less than 15%. It's less than 20%, guaranteed fact. I wouldn't watch this shit if I didn't have to.
Now you're talking about now, not in general, or just now, right now?
Right now. It's Jim, this is
why would you waste your time? Why would you waste your time?
It's not fun basketball to watch. It's not. It's not.
Well, especially for players, the fans, they make the comments, and a lot of them are good comments, whatnot, but the players know. They see what's going on, and they see it right to the heart of what's happening. They can see how a player is being coached and if they're making the same mistakes over and over or not. They know exactly what's happening, so their opinions are even deeper developed, and for good reason. So, yeah, why would they waste their time to watch poor play and they're like, Jesus, I was better than that when I was in high school?
So look at it this way right now. Let's say the IU Ohio State game. The only team you could probably take that off under is, say, Michigan, because I really enjoy watching Michigan play also. But if IU was playing any other team in the Big Ten besides Michigan, and Baylor and Texas Tech were on at the same time, and we didn't do this show, which game do you think I'd watch?
Baylor, Texas Tech right
100%,
now.
1,000,000%.
I've been talking about how fun the Big 12 is all year.
Play Mitchell High School down the street, and I would watch it before I would watch this team play.
Speaking of Mitchell, Chase Briscoe running in the Daytona 500 tomorrow from Mitchell, Indiana. How about that,
Happy
man?
Valentine's Day.
How about that for a segue? Great
That's a good
segue there,
segue.
man.
How about
perfect?
we need a Yogi's segue here.
Yeah, I said get ready to do that. Of course, you're listening to us live from Yogi's. Make sure we thank the Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney and Chris Martin. Chris is here somewhere running around. I saw him earlier, but place has been packed all day, having fun. I think the Breakfast Club this morning.
Breakfast Club has
big
returned.
Man, it's fun times there. But yeah, make sure you get out and stop by here. But yeah, it's a great day. But man, we got some snow coming too, folks. So we got a snow coming for Wednesday's game. I'm scared. That's a home game. We're expecting potentially 6 to 10 inches of snow in the Bloomington area.
Did I see it was like a 9 p.m. game again or something?
Yes, they moved the damn thing to 9 o'clock. So we got that coming for us. But
remember that percentage I gave you a minute ago? A former players watching it, it's down to like 5% now.
Yeah.
And that's only because I have to watch it.
Indiana's got to get turned around. Minnesota's a team that they can do something with. What do they have to do against this Minnesota team that they were not able to do against E.J. Liddell and this Ohio State team?
First, rebound a lot better. Second, this is one game. Archie's going to say we lost the turnover battle. I agree with them. They turned the ball over, just some bad turnovers. You know, they just had a ton of bad turnovers today. So they've got to have less turnovers. They've got to rebound a lot better. They gave up way too many offensive rebounds. That's one of the things I saw at the beginning of the game. Rob Fennessy's man, Suing or whatever his name was, boy, he was killing the boards early in the game. They couldn't get anybody in there to block him out. And they just got to rebound better. And then it's always going to go down to, I'm going to say the same thing over and over again. You can take both of those things I just said, throw them out the window if they don't shoot better. If they don't figure out a way to shoot better, they're not going to win against Minnesota or Michigan State or anybody else.
Yeah, Minnesota is a team that they definitely have probably the best opportunity, the best good team they have the opportunity to beat to close the season out. I don't see him going to Purdue and doing anything. Obviously, Michigan State is not a good team. Maybe they'll play better as they usually do under Tom Izzo down the stretch. But Michigan's going to be interesting, though, Todd. They've been on this COVID hiatus. And a COVID hiatus, but we've seen it really affect teams. I'm going to be interested in how it affects Baylor when they come back from missing 5 games.
You know, I'll say it this way, and they're not getting the respect that I believe they should. This is just me saying this. But I think, they always say Gonzaga and Baylor are separate from everyone else. They're above everyone else. I honestly believe that Gonzaga and Baylor and Michigan are above everyone else. Michigan is at that level. Michigan is, if they're not at that level, then they're the only team at the next level below them because they're right there. They're a way better team than Ohio State. And I'm good with Ohio. I think they're a good team. They're fun to watch. They score some points. They're aggressive. They play physical. But Michigan's up there in that. They may not look crisp and efficient right off the bat or whatever, but they're not going to lose games, and it won't take them very long to be right back in it. This may be a great thing for them. Think how healthy they'll be.
The thing about this team is, even if they beat Michigan State and they beat Minnesota. It's like, who cares? Who cares? Because nothing's going to change. Next year, you're not going to beat the Ohio States. You're not going to beat the Michigans. You're going to lose to the teams that are become better than you, and you are become a mid-level program. And there is absolutely zero being shown that this program is moving anywhere other than down. There's nothing showing it moves up. There's nothing in recruiting showing it moves up. Nothing in the play on the floor. The finish in the Big Ten, 6 to 8 to 10 to God knows where this year. So there was a statement earlier. What's Scott Dolson going to do? That I don't know because it's a financial situation.
He's going to sit there with 2 things. He's going to have IU's record right here in one hand, and he's just going to be shaking his head, not know what to do. And he's going to look over here at IU's budget, and he's going to shake his head about that, and he's not going to know what to do. And he's really kind of hamstrung in where you are. I mean, and you can blame COVID and all that for it. That's very understandable. You get all of that.
Brain flat grass for it.
If we all know Scott Dolson, and I feel like I know him well enough to say he's going to sit down with Archie. and he's going to want to know what Archie's plan is and what's got to happen. What's Archie's plan to make sure next year we're not sitting there February the 13th, 2022, still frustrated trying to figure out where we're going. Are we on the upward trajectory? Are we on the incline? Are we getting better? And if that answer, if there's not a good answer to that question, then I think the budget paper is going to get thrown away, and they're going to have to figure out what to do about it. But I mean, look, here's what I want you to understand. I don't hate Archie Miller. I want Archie Miller to be successful. I think Archie Miller needs to go hire an offensive coordinator and kind of hand off the offensive coordinator. What Tom Allen do with the defense? I mean, he realized he couldn't coach and be the defensive coordinator, so he hired somebody and handed that off. I think Archie needs to hand off the offensive coordinator position and coach the team as a whole from the ivory tower and delegate, tell everybody what to do. But he needs somebody offensively that's going to put in a system that scores some points, because you can't win scoring 63 points a game.
I don't think Archie's capable of coaching at this level. I think that he has implemented a system.
I won't agree with that statement.
Well, I know, but I'm going to say it because I don't.
Not proven it. He's not proven it right now. But
I think that he's implemented a system that he has learned, and he has. When it comes to offensively, he is completely and totally inept. He has not made one single change. These kids are not getting better. Nobody is developing, and that is on him. And that's not just this year. This is 4 years running. We've seen the same thing. He has a long history. His teams don't shoot free throws well. That's not acceptable. I mean, we're talking about the Dayton. So it's not acceptable. He doesn't produce talent. He does not do it. He's not the guy for Indiana, and he is not going to get the job done. He might be here for another year, though. That's it. And that's just flat out how it is. He will not get the job done.
Talking.
That's me saying that. It's not Todd, but that's it. I mean, there's no more hiding. We've seen it for 4 years. He makes no changes. I don't think he has the ability to make the in-game changes when other coaches are just killing him. They're just making him look dumb. And it is painful to watch. And it's not going to be any different when we watch the next game and the game after that. So there you go.
I don't have a strong argument against any of that. I mean, the difference for me is, I want to support them. I honestly do. Like, I
support the team. I love the team. Love the kids.
I want to support. But I mean, do you love rooting for these guys? Like, I think they're all good people. There's a lot of really good people that are in high school right now that are all good kids, that are great kids, but I mean, they're not capable of playing at Indiana. And I'm not singling anybody out right now on this team. I'm just saying, do you love the skill set of our team?
I don't blame the kids. I should say.
Do you like the skill set of our team?
Not all the way across. No, there's several.
As a whole, do you like the skill set?
There's a lot of holes.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
A lot of holes.
I mean, you can read into that anything you want to read into it, but I don't.
But those holes have been there because of 4 years of recruiting.
Well, the way I look at it different than that. I look at the players are running the offense that they're told to run, so that's the system. Okay, I don't love the system. Okay, but at some point in time, it's not like Calbert Chaney came in and because he ran Bob Knight's system, he got he was who he ended up being. Like, Bob Knight adjusted his system a little bit. I can assure you of this. When Calbert Chaney came in, Eric Anderson had just won Freshman of the Year at Indiana. Okay? I can assure you they expected to run that entire offense around Eric Anderson for the remaining 3 years of his career. And Calbert came in, and Bob Knight was like, oh, boy, hang on a minute. I mean, as we all were. I was in his recruiting class, and I'm telling you, we all – After a very short period of time in practice, we all were like, okay, well, he's the best player on the floor. And Coach Knight, Coach Dockich, they understood it. They adjusted what they were doing, and we started running. And you know who became the beneficiary of that? Eric Anderson.
Eric Anderson?
He did. I mean, when you're the guy, very few people can be the guy and still put up the numbers, okay? Calbert, it can be the guy and still put up the numbers. It would have been much more difficult. Eric still put up the numbers, but it's easier to put up the numbers when they've got to stop the guy also. And right now, it's not that difficult to stop Trace Jackson Davis, or in the case of like what happened today, Let Trace Jackson Davis get his, and let's see if the other group of guys can beat us. And the answer to that question, obviously, is no.
I agree, man. I agree. It has been an absolute blast. Even though it was a hard one, but still fun. I do hope that they can get this turned around. I do for the kids. I hope that. But, yeah, no, their talent's got to increase. But, again, I don't think that's going to change until you have a different coach. I'm sorry. I don't think kids want to come play for him. I don't. I think they want to come to play for IU. I don't think anybody's coming to play for Archie Miller. I just don't. Why would you? What the hell does he show you that you want to come play for? His great offensive system? No. Is he producing NBA talent? No. What in the hell do you have to come play for at Archie Miller? Nothing. So that's just not going to change, and it's rough. But, hey, what, you want me to lie to you? Not going to do it. But, oh, well. But Todd gets to be the analyst, and we'll leave it be the analyst. So you just analyze, and I'll get in trouble. I'll get in trouble.
You're saying the things as a fan, like as just a straight up fan, and fortunately because of my past, I get to be a quote expert on it because I have been out on that floor before. I've watched probably one of the greatest coaches of all time. I got to learn from him. Okay, so I've seen a system that works, and I can tell you, you could take this body, which is not very athletic, and you can figure out a way to win. And these guys that are there, every single one of them is more athletic and more physically talented than me, Pat Graham, Pat Knight, Brian Evans. I could keep going down the list. Like AJ Guyton's not very physically talented. He knows how to play. He understands how to play. He's not crazy athletic. There's nothing. I mean, he's your typical. He's like the rest of us. He's like an average human. And until they figure out a way to develop these guys to understand, I'm not saying develop them to make them NBA players. Develop them to understand how to play to win games in college basketball. I hate the fact that we're going to keep dealing with this same stuff.
Yeah, me too. But
you know what?
Hopefully,
everything we just said, Keith just summed it up in 4 words.
Yeah, we could have saved a lot of time.
He's right. Keith, you know what, Keith? This would be a lot shorter show if we just let you do it.
But we wouldn't have got the chance to come out to Yogi's and have a good time out here today, which we did. It was packed out here again. Everyone at Nathan or Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney, thank you so much. Chris Martin, Kelly, everybody out here. Make sure you stop by. Todd Leary, of course, the star of the show here. So Wednesday night we'll be back to do it. I don't know if we're going to be here and I'll be able to make it in here. I'm going to take my blood
pressure medication every day up until then, because right now I think I'm overboiling on my blood pressure right now.
I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, weekend. We got snow coming in. Get prepared for that. We'll be back Wednesday night to talk about the next game. Hopefully, Indiana can get a win. Of course, I'll be back on Monday morning. Charlie Miller will be with me then, so join me on Indiana Sports Beat. But until then, for the start of the show, Todd Leary, I'm Jim Boyle. Chucky Goldtooth, man. We're coming to you from Yogi's. Make sure you go out and do something nice for somebody. Wear your masks. And until Monday, I'll see you on the radio.